In this video, I will tell you the best ways to build the Raiden Shogun. I will cover her best weapons, artifacts, and some of her best teams. Raiden is the electro character who uses a polearm, and most of Raiden's damage comes from her elemental burst. Raiden's elemental burst will do an initial burst of damage. After that, she will enter the Musou Ishin state, where she will do normal charge and plunging attacks, which will be infused with electro, which cannot be overridden. And these states last for 7 seconds, and all of the damage inside her elemental burst is considered as elemental burst damage, and her normal attacks inside of her elemental burst also has the multipliers inbuilt to her elemental burst talent, and they are completely separate from her normal attack talent. And her elemental burst has an energy cost of 90 with 18 seconds cooldown. But there are some other stuff that increases her elemental burst damage even further. First is Chakra Desiderata. When any nearby party members, excluding Raiden herself, use their elemental burst, Raiden will build up resolve stacks based on the energy cost of these elemental bursts, and this has a maximum limit of 60, and the amount of resolve generated will be 0.2% of per energy consumed at talent level 10, and based on the number of resolve stacks consumed when you use her elemental burst, you will get 7% of Raiden's attack as a damage increase for the initial hit, and then 1.31% damage increase for the following Musou Ishin attacks. And with Raiden's first passive talent, when any nearby party member gain any elemental orb or particles, Chakra Desiderata will gain 2 resolve stacks, and this can occur every 3 seconds. So this is another way to generate the resolve stacks much faster. And Raiden's second passive talent is also very important for her kit. So for each 1% of energy recharge above the base 100%, Raiden will grant herself 0.6% greater energy restoration from Musou Ishin and 0.4% electro damage bonus. So when using her Musou Ishin attacks, she generates energy for the entire team, which will increase based on the amount of energy recharge she has. And Raiden, apart from a damage dealer, has another very popular playstyle, which is that of a Hyperloom trigger. And for that playstyle, her elemental skill is the most important skill, because her elemental skill, after using it, will unleash a coordinated attack dealing AoE electro damage at opponents when your active character deals damage to the opponents. In addition to that, characters who have gained this buff will also have their elemental burst damage increased based on the energy cost of their respective elemental burst, and at talent level 10, the elemental burst damage bonus will be 0.3% per energy. So this is a very nice source of elemental burst damage increase, and this skill has a cooldown of 10 seconds and the duration is 25 seconds. So this skill has a very long uptime, which makes this skill very good at triggering Hyper Bloom. So for a main DPS Raiden, the talent that you should focus on first will be her elemental burst, because that is where all of her damage is coming from, and her elemental skill and normal attacks are not very significant for her DPS playstyle, so they can be left alone. And for Hyper Bloom Raiden, well, you technically don't need to level up any of her talents, because Hyper Bloom damage does not depend on any of the talent levels, so you can leave all of her talents at level 1 and you will get the same amount of Hyper Bloom damage. Next are Raiden's best weapons. For a main DPS Raiden, her best weapon will be her signature Engulfing Lightning. This weapon has good amount of energy recharge and it gives attack based on energy recharge, so Engulfing Lightning will be Raiden's best performing weapon. But the Staff of Homa is also a very good weapon for her because of the crit damage it provides, and both of these weapons, depending on your build, can be equally powerful. And as for 4-star weapons, Raiden has the best free-to-play weapon, which is the Catch. This weapon is ideal for Raiden because of the energy recharge it provides and the elemental burst damage increase and crit rate that it provides with the passive. This weapon is Raiden's best free-to-play as well as her best 4-star weapon as well. But the Deathmatch and the Blackcliff Polearm are also very good for Raiden, and depending on the refinement of the weapons and if you can fully maximize their respective passives, these weapons can outdamage a Refinement 5 Catch. And lastly, Favonius Lance can be a good choice for the energy recharge it provides. And for the best weapons for a Hyper Bloom Raiden, well, there is only one weapon that you should use on a Hyper Bloom Raiden, and it is the Dragon's Bane. Dragon's Bane has the highest amount of elemental mastery out of all the 4-star weapons, and elemental mastery is the stat that Hyper Bloom damage scales off. So this is the best weapon for a Hyper Bloom Raiden. And now let's talk about her best artifacts. So DPS Raiden's best artifact set will be the 4-piece Emblem of Severed Faith. This set gives 20% energy recharge, which is one of Raiden's primary scaling stat, and the 4-piece increases elemental burst damage based on the amount of energy recharge you have. So this set synergizes perfectly with Raiden's kit, and hence it is the best set for a DPS Raiden. But if you don't have a full emblem set, any 2-piece energy recharge and attack percent or energy recharge and electro damage percent artifact will work. And the best artifact set for a Hyper Bloom Raiden will be the 4-piece Flowers of Paradise Lost. This set gives 80 elemental mastery, and it also increases the damage of Bloom, Hyper Bloom and Virgin reactions. So this set will be Hyper Bloom Raiden's best artifact set, but there is another alternative set which is just as good as the Flowers of Paradise Lost, and it is the 4-piece Gilded Dream set. This set also gives 80 elemental mastery, and it also increases attack or elemental mastery based on the element of the party members. So both of these sets are very good for a Hyper Bloom Raiden, and you can use any one of them, but the Flowers of Paradise Lost will generally give you better damage. And as for what stats you should build on your Raiden, so for a main DPS Raiden, you will go for a energy recharge sands. You can also use a attack percent sands if you are using an energy recharge weapon and that attack percent sands have good substats compared to the energy recharge one, or you can also go for an energy recharge sands and a attack percent goblet, again given that you are using an energy recharge weapon and the attack percent goblet has better substats. Otherwise you will get better damage when using an energy recharge sands and a electro damage goblet. And as for what substats to prioritize, you will want to first focus on crit rate, crit damage, then energy recharge, and then attack percent. And for Hyper Bloom Raiden, well, it is very simple. You will want elemental mastery for everything, elemental mastery sands, goblet, and a circlet. And likewise with the substats, you will also prioritize elemental mastery above everything else. Your main objective with the Hyper Bloom Raiden will be to get as much elemental mastery as you can possibly get, because Hyper Bloom damage purely scales off of your character's level and the elemental mastery stat, nothing else. And now let's talk about Raiden's team building. Well, Raiden Shogun has a large variety of team options, so I will cover her most popular teams. So the best main DPS Raiden team will be a national team. This team will consist of Raiden, Xingqiu, Xiangling, and Bennett. So this team is the best team for Raiden at C0, because at C0 Raiden does not have that much personal damage compared to if you have her C2 unlocked. So this team supplements for her lack of damage by using Xiangling and Xingqiu, who are two of the most powerful sub DPSs in the game, and with Vaporize, Xiangling can put out some serious damage and Bennett is there to boost all of their attacks, and Xiangling and Xingqiu's elemental burst can snapshot, and that is why national team is the best C0 Raiden team. But if you have a C2 Raiden or you want to run a pure Raiden carry team, then her best team will consist of Raiden herself, Kujo Sara, ideally at C6, Kazuha, and Bennett. Bennett is there to boost all of their attacks, and Kazuha with the Viridescent Venria decreases the enemy's resistance, and Kazuha also gives elemental damage increase, and Sara can give the attack boost, as well as at C6 she can give 60% electro crit damage boost, and all of this combined skyrockets Raiden's damage. And if you have a C2 Raiden with this team, then you will do a shit ton of damage. Next is a fairly new Raiden team, which is a Chevreuse Overload team. This team will have Raiden, Kujo Sara ideally at C6, Chevreuse also ideally at C6, and Bennett. So Bennett gives a ton of attack boost with his elemental burst, and Chevreuse is also very powerful as she can decrease the enemy's pyro and electro resistance by 40% if you trigger a overload reaction, and Chevreuse also gives an attack boost of 40% based on her max HP, and at C6 Chevreuse can give up to 60% pyro and electro damage bonus respectively, which makes her a very good teammate for Raiden. And as for Kujo Sara, she also gives attack boost, and with her C6 she gives a 60% crit damage increase to all of your electro damage. So this team is also one of Raiden's top tier teams, given that you have all of the supports at C6. And the last team is a very fun team, which is a Raiden Electro Charge team. So this team will have Jean, Yelan, Raiden, and Furina. So Furina again here will give a ton of damage increase with her fanfares, and this time we have Jean instead of Kazuha, because Jean can use the Viridescent Venria to decrease resistance, as well as she can heal, and her healing is very good, so she can quickly max out fanfare points by using her elemental burst. And we have Yelan for off-field hydro application and damage, and she also gives a damage increase to the active character. So this team is a very fun team, and if you're fighting groups of enemies, then this team becomes a S tier team, because if you hit multiple opponents with electro charge, then all of them become linked and they take damage over time, and smaller enemies also get stun locked by electro charge. So this team when fighting groups of enemies is a very powerful team. And as for Raiden's best Hyper Bloom teams, well, any of our Hyper Bloom teams are overly powerful, but some of the best Hyper Bloom teams will be with Raiden, Nahida, Yelan, and Kokomi, and there are some very powerful Quick Bloom teams as well with Raiden, and the best Raiden Quick Bloom team will be Raiden, Alhaitham, Furina, and Baizu, but you can also replace Baizu and Furina with other Dendro and Hydro characters. And another Quick Bloom team which is not as powerful as the Alhaitham one will be the exact same, but replacing Alhaitham with Emily, but this team will not be as powerful as the Alhaitham one, but this team will also be very powerful as well. And instead of a Dendro main DPS, you can also use another Electro main DPS who can take advantage of the aggravate reaction like Yai Miko or Chlorand. So the best Quick Bloom aggravate team will be Raiden, Chlorand, Nahida or Baizu, and Furina, or you can even replace Furina with Yelan or Xingqiu, anything that you want. So Raiden is one of the most versatile units in the entire game, hence why she has so many powerful and diverse team options. And if you are a free-to-play player, or if you just started your Genshin Impact journey recently, then I would highly recommend you to pull for Raiden Shogun, because Raiden is one of the most versatile and free-to-play friendly character, because she has so many different team options that anyone will be able to make a good team for her, and she also has two very good free-to-play friendly weapon options available as well. So Raiden is a very powerful character, and to all of you who are pulling for Raiden, I wish you the best of luck. And if you did find this video enjoyable or helpful, then a like would be very much appreciated, and for more such content consider subscribing. And in the meantime, check out everything that you need to know about Kinich by watching this video right here, and I will see you in the next one.